A poll conducted by Change Research asked 18 to 34-year-olds to provide a list of red flags when it comes to dating and relationships. And topping the list, believe it or not, MAGA Republicans, with 76% of millennial and Gen Z women saying it's a turnoff, man. Also high on the list, saying that there are only two genders. That can run you into trouble there. 58%, just amazing. The Joe Rogan Experience may be the top podcast in the United States of America, but listening to it won't get you a date, with 55% of women in this category anyway. And refusing to see the Barbie movie means that 53% of young women won't go to the movies with you.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And in a pathetic attempt to appeal to Gen Z and millennials, the Right Squad with Chris Plant brought on Matthew Foldy, a young journalist, to discuss the red flags of modern dating. But it didn't turn out the way that they'd expected.
Man, I don't understand what's happening with young women, because we see that young men are actually starting to trend more conservative. So that's kind of interesting. But I wonder if these young women are also the same types that, will be upset if somebody doesn't hold the door open for them, or, as we discussed the other day with a dating situation, if they don't pay for the meals of you or maybe your friends if it's your birthday dinner or something like that.
My advice to the men is stay away from the woke women, okay?
Right.
Because remember, they'll be the future mothers and the future wives. And as I tell my girls tell me all the time, they're not ready to get married anytime soon, but they're like, I want to marry a conservative, someone who loves God, and someone who's in their faith. And I'm like, that's good.
The discussion was centered around an alleged poll that was directed at Gen Z and millennial women. Remember that young Americans are expected to show up in droves to vote in 2024, and they're not leaning towards Republican policies. This fact has the GOP running scared. The idea of an entire generation of new voters casting their ballots for the opposition has left party leadership trying to reach out and identify with the youth. That's why they have so many clowns like Charlie Kirk always lurking outside of college campuses.
This list is crazy, and I want to fixate on the third spot there, the Joe Rogan podcast. Like millions of people around the world, I train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night. Now, this probably doesn't mean anything to you, but for millions of people, Joe Rogan is the most listened to person, by my calculations, in the world.
The poll in question asked Gen Z and millennial women, what are the biggest red flags when it comes to dating? The number one answer, according to the poll, was MAGA boys who identify as Republicans.
So if you meet a young woman who doesn't like Joe Rogan, that's a red flag for you, and you're probably moving on.
No, the red flag would be her not liking that I listen to Joe Rogan. You can be neutral on Joe Rogan. Listening to it, though, I think, says you have an open mind.
There's no lukewarm. You can't be neutral, okay? And especially when you're dating and you're trying to, pick the partner for your life. It's about sharing common interests. I feel bad for these young women.
The red hat wearing, Donald Trump loving, big pickup driving jackaloons that blast Jason Aldean at stoplights and blow black smoke out of their pipes to own the libs. Yeah, those clowns. Not surprisingly, folks who insist on two genders come in at a sloppy second. Those are the Marge to Trainwreck Green and Lauren Boebert types. Christian nationalists fall into this category. These are the folks who want to regulate everyone else's sexuality but get a free pass when it comes to themselves. It's no wonder that any intelligent young person with their whole life ahead of them would want to steer clear of a closed-minded, unoriginal loser. When the panel got to number 3 on the list, Foldy couldn't accept the answer. The number 3 biggest red flag for young people dating is someone who listens to Joe Rogan. And can you blame them? MAGA morons suffer from what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. That's when someone thinks that they are experts in topic without having any training or experience. Matthew Foldy represents this effect to perfection. Joe Rogan is not an ordinary guy. He has paid millions to have a viewpoint, right or not, and to push the envelope of public opinion on his show. If your date is obsessed with Joe Rogan and makes you listen to him for 3 hours at a time, you'd probably lose interest real fast, and the relationship just wouldn't work out anyway. These jackaloons can't answer the simple question, could I possibly be wrong, or could there be another way than the one I've settled on in my head? Newsmax host Mercedes Schlapp chimed in with some moronic advice for the Joe Rogan disciple and for MAGA boys. She advised Foldy to stay away from woke women, because they will turn into moms and things like that. In other words, Foldy and the others like him need to focus on dating people who are passive, scared, and have no self-esteem. What a nightmare. That pretty much sums up the red flags of dating MAGA losers. Just don't. And that's a fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.